Sio Nagad, hello all. Osha Sahiya, good evening. Wado, thank you for watching. So this is day 15, part B of reading Zidin, The Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, an Inquiry into Values by Robert M. Persig. So I slow down, but after a while, see he is deliberately lagging behind. He's disappointed, of course. I suppose what I ought to do in the Chautauqua is just point out in summary form the direction Phaedrus went without evaluation, and then get on with my own thing. Believe me, when the world is seen not as a duality of mind and matter, but as a trinity of quality, mind and matter, then the art of motorcycle maintenance and other arts take on a dimension of meaning they never had. The specter of technology, the Sutherlands, are running from becomes not an evil but a positive fun thing, and to demonstrate that will be a long fun task. But first, to give this other specter his walk-in papers, I should say the following. Perhaps he would have gone in the direction I'm now about to go in if this second wave of crystallization, the metaphysical wave, had finally grounded out where I'll be grounding it out. That is, in the everyday world. I think metaphysics is good if it improves everyday life. Otherwise, forget it. But unfortunately for him, it didn't ground out. It went into a third mystical wave of crystallization from which he never recovered. He'd been speculating about the relationship of quality to mind and matter, and had identified quality as the parent of mind and matter, that event which gives birth to mind and matter. The Copernican inversion of the relationship of quality to the objective world could sound mysterious if not carefully explained, but he didn't mean it to be mysterious. He simply meant that at the cutting edge of time, before an object can be distinguished, there must be a kind of non-intellectual awareness, which he called awareness of quality. You can't be aware that you've seen a tree until after you've seen the tree, and between the instant of vision and instant of awareness, there must be a time lag. We sometimes think of that time lag as unimportant, but there's no justification for thinking that the time lag is unimportant. None whatsoever. The past exists only in our memories, the future only in our plans. The present is our only reality. The tree that you are aware of intellectually because of that small time lag is always in the past and therefore is always unreal. Any intellectually conceived object is always in the past and therefore unreal. Reality is always the moment of vision before the intellectualization takes place. There is no other reality. The pre-intellectual reality is what Phaedrus felt had properly identified as quality, since all intellectuality identifiable things must emerge from this pre-intellectual reality. Quality is the parent, the source of all subjects and objects. He felt that intellectuals usually have the greatest trouble seeing this quality, precisely because they are so swift and absolute about snapping everything into an intellectual form. The ones who have the easiest time seeing this quality are small children, uneducated people, and culturally deprived people. These have the least predisposition toward intellectuality from cultural sources, and have the least formal training to instill it further into them. That, he felt, is why squareness is such a uniquely intellectual disease. He felt he'd been accidentally immunized from it, or at least to some extent broken from the habit by his failure from school. After that, he felt no compulsive identification with intellectuality, and could examine anti-intellectual doctrines with sympathy. Squares, he said, because of their prejudices toward intellectuality, usually regard quality, the pre-intellectual reality, as unimportant, a mere uneventful transition period between objective reality and subjective perception of it. Because they have preconceived ideas of its unimportance, they don't seek to find out if it's in any way different from their intellectual conception of it. It is different, he said. Once you begin to hear the sound of that quality, see that Korean wall, that non-intellectual reality in its pure form, you want to forget all that word stuff, which you finally begin to see is always somewhere else. Now, armed with his new time interrelated metaphysical trinity, he had the romantic classic quality split. the one which had threatened to ruin him completely stopped. They couldn't cut up quality now. He could sit there and at his leisure cut them up. Romantic quality always correlated with instantaneous impressions. Square quality always involved multiple considerations that extended over a period of time. Romantic quality was the present, the here and now of things. Classic quality was always concerned with more than just the present. The relation of the present to the past and future was always considered. If you conceived the past and future to be all contained in the present, why, that was groovy. The present was what you lived for. And if your motorcycle is working, why worry about it? But if you consider the present to be merely an instant between the past and the future, just a passing moment, then to neglect the past and future for the present is bad quality indeed. The motorcycle may be working now, but when was the oil level last checked? Fuss budgetry, FUSSBUDGETRY, from the romantic view, but good common sense from the classic. Now we had two different kinds of quality, but they no longer split quality itself. They were just two different time aspects of quality, short and long. What had previously been asked for was a metaphysical hierarchy that looked like this. And he has reality at the top, and then off to one side below that, subjective mental, and then objective physical on the other. Then down from subjective mental comes classic intellectual, and then romantic emotional. And then down from classic intellectual is quality Phaedrus should be teaching. And from romantic emotional, it's quality Phaedrus was teaching. What he gave them in return was a metaphysical hierarchy that looks like this. Quality reality at the top. Then down off from that is romantic quality, pre-intellectual reality. And then to the right of that is classic quality with intellectual reality in the same area. And then off from that one is subjective reality, which is mind. And then the offshoot of that is objective reality, which is matter on the other side. The quality he was teaching was not just a part of reality, it was the whole thing. He then proceeded in terms of the Trinity to answer the question, why does everybody see quality differently? This was the question he had always had to answer speciously. Oh, no, that's right. SPECIOUSLY, speciously, before. Okay. Now he said quality is shapeless, formless, indescribable. To see shapes and forms is to intellectualize. Quality is independent of any such shapes and forms. The names, the shapes, and forms we give quality depend only partly on the quality. They also depend partly on the a priori images we have accumulated in our memory. We constantly seek to find in the quality event analogs to our previous experiences. If we didn't, we'd be unable to act. We build up our language in terms of these analogs. We build up our whole culture in terms of these analogs. The reason people see quality differently, he said, is because they come to it with different sets of analogs. He gave linguistic examples showing that to us the Hindi letters DA, so da, and DHA all sound identical to us because we don't have analogs to them to sensitize us to their differences. Similarly, most Hindi-speaking people cannot distinguish between DA and the THE because they are not so sensitized. It is not uncommon, he said, for Indian villagers to see ghosts, but they have a terrible time seeing the law of gravity. This, he said, explains why a class full of freshman composition students arrives at similar ratings of quality in the compositions. They all have relatively similar backgrounds and similar knowledge. But if a group of foreign students were brought in, or say medieval poems out of the range of the class experience were brought in, then the student's ability to rank quality would probably not correlate as well. In a sense, he said, it's the student's choice of quality that finds them. People differ about quality, not because quality is different, but because people are different in terms of experience. Exactly. He speculated that if two people had identical a priori analogs, they would see quality identically every time. There was no way to test this, however, so it had to remain just speculation. In answer to his colleagues at school, he wrote, any philosophic explanation of quality is going to be both false and true precisely because it is a philosophic explanation. The process of philosophic explanation is an analytic process, a process of breaking something down into subjects and predicates. What I mean, and everybody else means, by the word quality cannot be broken down into subjects and predicates. This is not because quality is so mysterious, but because quality is so simple, immediate, and direct. The easiest intellectual analog of pure quality that people in our environment can understand is that quality is the same response of an organism to its environment. He used this example because his chief questioners, seemed to see things in terms of stimulus response, behavior theory. An amoeba placed on a plate of water with a drip of dilute sulfuric acid placed nearby will pull away from the acid, I think. If it could speak, the amoeba, without knowing anything about sulfuric acid, could say, this environment has poor quality. If it had a nervous system, it would act in a much more complex way to overcome the poor quality of the environment. It would seek analogs, that is, images and symbols from its previous experience to define the unpleasant nature of its new environment and thus understand it. In our highly complex organic state, we advanced organisms respond to our environment with an invention of many marvelous analogs. We invent earth and heavens, trees, stones, oceans, gods, music, arts, language, philosophy, engineering, civilization, and science. We call these analogs reality, and they are reality. We mesmerize our children in the name of truth into knowing that they are reality. We throw anyone who does not accept these analogs into an insane asylum. But which causes us to invent the analogs is quality. Quality is the continuing stimulus which our environment puts upon us to create the world in which we live in. All of it, every last bit of it. While I was reading that, I was thinking about the time when we went to an Airbnb and we didn't have weeks to research or whatever. So we suddenly needed an Airbnb. The one that we ended up choosing was, it looks really nice in the pictures. We get there, there's a big gap in between the flooring and the tub. And the whole place, we meet the person there, and he's like, oh, just hang on just a moment. Let me go mop the floors for you. I was like, okay, cool, thanks. Fabuloso, okay, was used. It was, and I have really, really bad allergies, very sensitive to strong smells. And that Fabuloso, oh my God, I could feel a migraine coming. I'm right? We're opening the windows and stuff, and I was like, oh, Christopher, because he was at work, and I was going to go check on the B&B and everything. I was like, I'm not gonna be able to stay here. I can't do it. And there was an area in the backyard where there was glass and broken glass and metal, and our son was a toddler at the time. We're like, no, right? This is just a crazy town banana pants. The towels that he set out for us had stains on them and everything. His accent, and I'm not trying to be funny or anything, just let logic drive the bus. It was a heavy African accent, right? And if you think about it, conditions in the parts of Africa that we have been shown, this place would have been just the bee's knees in comparison, right? For this man. But by our standards, no, right? So I had to report him to the people, God, what do you call it? I can't even think of the name right now. It is late. I'm just trying to tell you. Oh, I have had a long day. Dang. But the main Airbnb people, right? Anyway, I had to report him to there, and then they credited us back, and then we went and stayed in a hotel for the night, for the next 2 nights or whatever that we needed. But anyway, so yeah, that totally, and if you think about it, it's the same amongst Americans that have grown up in different environments and stuff. They will think quality is different. It's just how it is. Now, to take that which has caused us to create the world and include it within the world we have created, it is clearly impossible. That is why quality cannot be defined. If we do define it, we are defining something less than quality itself. I remember this fragment more vividly than any of the others, possibly because it is the most important of all. When he wrote it, he felt momentary fright and was about to strike out the words, all of it, every last bit of it. Madness there. I think he saw it, but he couldn't see any logical reason to strike these words out. And it was too late now for faint-heartedness. He ignored his warning and let the words stand. He put his pencil down and then felt something let go, as though something internal had been strained too hard and had given way. Then it was too late. He began to see that he had drifted away from his original stand. He was no longer talking about a metaphysical trinity, but an absolute monism. Quality was the source and substance of everything. A whole new flood of philosophic associations came to mind. Hegel, Hegel, had talked like this with his absolute mind. Absolute mind was independent too, but, both of objectivity and subjectivity. However, Hegel said the absolute mind was the source of everything, but then excluded romantic experience from the everything it was the source of. Hegel's absolute was completely classical, completely rational, and completely orderly. Quality was not like that. Phaedrus remembered Hegel had been regarded as a bridge between Western and Oriental philosophy. The Vedanta, Vedanta, of the Hindus, the way of the Taoists, even the Buddha had been described as an absolute monism, similar to Hegel's philosophy. Phaedrus doubted at the time, however, whether mystical ones and metaphysical monisms were intraconvertible, since mystical ones follow no rules and metaphysical monisms do. His quality was a metaphysical entity, not a mystic one, or was it? What was the difference? He answered himself that the difference was one of definition. Metaphysical entities are defined, mystical ones are not. That made quality mystical. No, it was really both. Although he thought of it purely in philosophical terms up to now as metaphysical, he had all along refused to define it. That made it mystic too. Its indefinability freed it from the rules of metaphysics. Then, on impulse, Phaedrus went over to his bookshelf and picked out a small blue cardboard-bound book. He had hand-copied this book and bound it himself years before, when he couldn't find a copy for sale anywhere. It was the 2,400-year-old Tao Te Ching, oh my gosh, of Lao Tzu. Wow, that is incredible. He began to read through the lines he had read many times before, but this time he studied it to see if a certain substitution would work. He began to read and interpret it at the same time. He read, "The quality that can be defined is not the absolute quality." That was what he had said. The names that can be given it are not absolute names. It is the origin of heaven and earth. When named, it is the mother of all things. Exactly. Quality, romantic quality, and its manifestations, classic quality, are in their nature the same. It is given different names, subjects and objects, when it becomes classically manifest. Romantic quality and classic quality together may be called the mystic. Reaching for mystery and to deeper mystery, it is the gate to the secret of all life. Quality is all pervading, and its use is inexhaustible, fathomless. Like the fountainhead of all things, yet crystal clear like water it seems to remain. I do not know whose son it is, an image of what existed before God. Continuously it seems to remain. Draw upon it and it serves you with ease. Look at but cannot be seen. Listened to but cannot be heard. Grasped at but cannot be touched. These three elude all our inquiries and hence blend and become one. Not by its rising in their light, not by its sinking in their darkness, unceasing, continuous. It cannot be defined and reverts again into the realm of nothingness. That is why it is called the form of the formless, the image of nothingness. That is why it is called elusive. Meet it and you do not see its face. Follow it and you do not see its back. He who holds fast to the quality of old is able to know the primeval beginnings, which are the continuity of quality. Don't go hang till we meet again. Love you, mean it.